Again on Boxing Day. Much colder further north and east, and any rain or hill snow tending to fizzle out later. There'll be some rain and hill snow again on Monday here and there, but otherwise a good deal of cloud and many places turning drier by Tuesday. And then from the middle of next week, it becomes much milder.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints, where over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Welcome to this special edition of Talking Pints, where we look back at some of the best interviews in 2021. Now, normally, we provide the drinks for the people that come along to be interviewed and have a conversation in a GB News pub. But on one occasion, Jacob Rees-Mogg decided to bring his own homemade cider.
We've got the cider that I make at home. So these are Rees-Mogg apples that my children throw into this fantastic musher that puts out the juice and obviously then all the remains of the apples. And then it sits in a barn for a year and comes out as cider. And we make about 30 gallons of it a year, which I have to give away because I only drink about a pint of it a week. So I don't get a huge amount.
What sort of strength is it, Jacob?
I have no idea. You taste, you tell, you're the expert.
Well, cheers. Cheers.
You're very
this is the Rees-Mogg cider. Let's give it a go. Oh, wow, that's real. That's real. Yeah.
I'm not going to drink it all whilst...
No, that's fine. You can afterwards. Jacob, one of the things that those that really know you understand is you first appeared on television aged about 11 with the Financial Times. And I think at the time your father was running something called the Fleet Street Letter. He was,
yes.
Yeah. He actually offered me a job there once, believe it or not. I don't think I've ever told you that. He did. He did.
But my father was a great admirer of yours.
I know he was. But you've always been interested in investment, in stock markets, and what to do with money. And something new has arrived. We knew about it back in the 70s into the 80s. It damaged people's savings in a way I don't think anything else can. It's the I word, it's inflation. And we've got the Bank of England and the Fed in America saying, oh, don't worry your little heads. It'll just be a little short-term thing and it won't be a problem. And yet I've always taken the view that inflation is a disease of money. And once you catch that, nearly often caused by governments and by excessive spending and borrowing. And then once you get that disease, it's very difficult to get rid of. So just with your investment manager hat on, how do you see inflation?
Well, I think going to the basics of economics, if you increase the money supply beyond a reasonable level, it has an inflationary effect. And it's very difficult to work out the precise causality. So monetary policy in the 1980s didn't particularly work because it was hard to say a growth in the money supply of a particular measure of a certain level is directly inflationary. But that the simple point that if you create an enormous amount of money, it has to go somewhere. Money must find a home is true. And there was a very important House of Lords report. Lord Forsyth, Michael Forsyth, was, I think, the chairman of the committee that put out, warning us that we mustn't get addicted to free money. And I think that's right. And you've begun to see, partly because of trade distortions created by the pandemic, so containers being in the wrong part of the world and therefore transport costs going up, the beginnings of inflation. You've seen a very rapid increase in wages, which is in part extremely good because you want people to be getting better off. You want a real increase in wages, but it mustn't be too fast because that leads to inflationary pressures. So I think you're right to be concerned. I'm pleased that the Bank of England has said that it will look at reducing quantitative easing before raising interest rates. I think it's obviously the Bank of England's independent. It's not for me as a minister to be saying what they ought to be doing, but it seems nonetheless that that is the right way around, that it's withdrawing some of that excess liquidity that was needed to deal with a crisis and gradually normalising. Yeah. So I think the Bank of England.
So you think they're handling it the right way?
Handling it.
Well, let's hope you're right.
The difficulty with all of this always is the speed of response. And sometimes you find that central banks have to act very suddenly, which risks creating an economic shock.
So investors need to watch inflation?
Very carefully.
Yeah, no, I think this is a view that I've formed very, very much. It's all back to the Brexit referendum. And, you and I are very much on the same side on that. And I think, both emotionally involved in that. We believed in it with all our heart and soul. I was unhappy. We didn't fall out, but I was unhappy that she, in the end, voted for Mrs May's dreadful deal. But I'm not going to have a punch-up over that with you today.
Well, we got there in the end, and we've
discussed
new
that
leader.
Before. That's the point. Thank goodness we got rid of Mrs May, and I like to think I played a bit of a hand in that. And we've got Boris and we've got Brexit done. It's not perfect. The fishermen are angry. Really angry. And if you drove from your constituency an hour and a half, 2 hours southwest to Brixham Market, or I recommend you don't at the moment, they really are jolly angry about it, the way it's worked out. But constitutionally, we finished up with Northern Ireland. It's been effectively annexed. What are we going to do, Jacob, to sort that out? Is the will there? I hear Lord Frost, who I think did a jolly good job as negotiator, and I hear him saying tough things. Are we going to sort out Northern Ireland? Because if we don't, I do fear the knock-on for the rest of the Union is quite significant.
Northern Ireland is a fundamental part of our country. Northern Ireland is as much part of our country
but it was.
As Somerset. No, it
was.
It still is. And you cannot allow the European Union to extract Northern Ireland from the United Kingdom. And you're right to say that the EU has not implemented what it agreed with the goodwill that we had a reasonable expectation could apply. It has not applied the flexibilities. It has not even recognised animals in the UK as being from the safest countries of all. And as the problem with rabies has always been the continent to us rather than us.
And she threatened us with that. She threatened to put the hard border back, and we know all of that. But does there come a point when we have to say, look, you've been completely unreasonable about this?
The British government is completely committed to ensuring that Northern Ireland remains a fundamental part of our United Kingdom. Lord Frost is, as you said earlier, a tough negotiator. The British government is going to ensure that Northern Ireland is protected.
There is work to be done.
There is work to be done, and it needs to be done at a sensible pace, and we need to try. You and I both want a relationship with the EU which is one of goodwill. And we want to get to that. But we need to understand, and you probably understand it better than I do because of being an MEP and perhaps being more intimately involved, that they feel very hurt still with us and are very angry with us. And there is still, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it is in our interest in the long term to have a friendly relationship with the EU. So we want to ensure that Northern Ireland is protected.
But at the moment, it's not being protected. No, I mean, this is work in progress. Jacob, I've got one last thing to discuss with you before we're out of time. When I said you were coming on earlier, a lot of people said, Jacob Rees-Mogg, where's he gone? I mean, we had Mogmentum, we had this. There was a movement that suggested that Jacob could quite possibly become the leader of the Conservative Party, and what Jacob thought and what Jacob said on every issue was covered by all the newspapers from left to right, and we got to find out your views and your strong Christian faith and how you won't be bullied on social issues, and we learned all of those things. And this potential leader, and you've disappeared. You're leader of the House. You make some witty remarks in the House, and that's all well and good, and the business of the House of Commons is very important. But Jacob, you've disappeared.
Well, I'm here.
Well, I'm very pleased you are, but we haven't seen you doing interviews. We haven't seen. I mean, have they bought you off with this position, leader of the House?
No, in government, as you know, you're bound by collective responsibility.
Yes.
And you have your area of responsibility, and other ministers have theirs. My area of responsibility is the business of the House of Commons, the government.
But your fans want to see you, Jacob.
I'm delighted to come on your programme, and hope you will invite me back again.
Well, there we are. We've got Jacob Rees-Mogg. He's turned up with his own cider, and I think if he drinks a few more of those, maybe we'll see a lot more of him. I want to thank Jacob Rees-Mogg for coming in for Talking Pints. She's a black US Conservative commentator. She attacks the Democrats vigorously, a passionate supporter and friend of Donald Trump. And in this Talking Pints interview, she talks about the Black Lives Matter movement and how she feels about it, and about something else called Blexit.
There's such a lack of understanding of what's actually going on in America in terms of the race conflict. And it is purely manufactured by the media. And it is encouraged by the Democrat Party, who wants people to vote based on emotionality and on no basis of fact. And in particular, seeing the protests that were going on in the UK about racism and Black Lives Matter, an organization that is not for Black Americans. It's an organization that raised billions and billions of dollars, of which zero...
But it says it is.
Yeah, billions and billions of dollars from white people that feel guilty and believe that there's, racial oppression in America for Black Americans because the media tells them so. And of course, the media never lies. Nigel, as you know, the media never, ever lies. And what it does is it funds white people. The money never goes to Black America. So billions of dollars raised for Black Lives Matter. Not a single Black school built, not a single Black building built up, not a Black neighborhood that was built up. But many more Black people arrested and sent to prison in these riots. More Black people died in these Black Lives Matter riots. But at least the white people felt good when they gave the dollar to Black Lives Matter. So it's a political scam.
But there are a lot of poor black people in America.
There's a lot of poor white people in America. There's a lot of poor people, period. And there's definitely such a thing as economic privilege. There's no white privilege. America is a country that no matter where you come from, you can make something great of yourself if you're willing to work hard and stay out of trouble. And unfortunately, right now, there's this idea that if you are Black, you can't become successful in America. And part of that is a racist idea, by the way.
This is the victim.
This is the victim mentality, and it's cancerous, right? Because if you keep telling somebody that they're a victim and that they are, stuck inside of this idea of being a victim, then they become their own oppressor. When you believe that you are a victim, you become your own oppressor, right? Because you say, why should I try? I'm Black. And my story is very much, I came from nothing. My mother didn't even graduate high school. My family grew up very poor, and I made it in America because I had grandparents who never handed me an excuse. You just got to get up and you have to work.
And now an English husband.
Now an English husband, yes, yes. So.
But he's living in America with you, obviously, and you've got a young child.
We do.
Which is great. So there's a family life, but there's a sort of media life. I mean, that's where you are now, isn't it? A burgeoning media career.
Yeah.
And is that mostly online? Do you appear much on the big TV shows in the States? How does that mix work?
Yeah, so I do, I have my own show with the Daily Wire, and I'm on Fox News once, twice a week. And people, primarily the young people, follow me just on Instagram, on Twitter, because they just like to hear an opinion they haven't heard before. People mean well when they get behind things like Black Lives Matter. They genuinely do mean well.
I think that's right. I think most of the people who turned up on the streets thought, we want to live in a fair society. But I mean, I felt they were being used as pawns. By
facts are there. If people would like to look at the facts, they can look at the facts and actually see that Black Americans know we're not just being gunned down for walking down the street. A police officer doesn't just see us and gun us down. In fact, a police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be shot by a Black man than the other way around. And in America, by rate, if you look at the numbers, white American men and Hispanic men are killed at a higher rate than Black men. People just don't know this.
No, I know. I've seen those numbers, and that narrative just hasn't got through at all.
It hasn't gotten through.
Just hasn't got through in any way. But Brexit inspired you.
It did.
Because it inspired your own political movement. Blexit. Explain Blexit, please.
So I saw you at CPAC, and I was actually depressed before I saw you because the doors had closed. Nobody knew who I was, and I was going to miss Trump's speech, and so I had to go backstage, and I had a pass that put me backstage, and I was like, I'm going to miss Trump's speech. The first time I'm going to see him speak, and I walk into the room, and I see you, and I'm like, oh, it's Nigel Farage. He's Mr. Brexit. And then I went, oh, that's exactly it. There needs to be a Blexit. There needs to be a Black exit from the ideals of progressivism. There needs to be a Black exit from this victim narrative that has become so poisonous, and that it is based on a fundamental lie. And so I created the movement to bring conservative principles to the Black community, to be a spokesperson for them, because in America and beyond, if you are a Black person, you are not allowed to be conservative. You are caricatured, you are lied on by the media, you are attacked.
And yet, a larger number of Black people voted Republican, I think in the last 2 elections, than had for a long, long time. So this Donald Trump figure, who I've got to know pretty well over the years, and I like him. I've made no bones about that, and I've perhaps been his most consistent supporter on this side of the pond, against the media who paint him out to be a monster. But you're personal friends with Donald Trump, and tell me why.
Because when he was running, I didn't want him to win. And then I watched the speech that he gave while he was running. Didn't want him to. No. I was that same sleepy, Republicans are racist. And then I heard a speech he gave in Dimondale, Michigan in 2015. And the scales fell from my eyes. He sat up there and he listed every statistic. Black community, you've been voting for Democrats for 60 years. Why not take a chance on me? He said specifically, Black America, what do you have to lose? Look at all of the ways you've already lost, right? What's it gonna take for you to just give me a chance? And I went, wow, that's about as good an argument as any. We're not winning, so why not take a chance on something different, And I watched the way the media, who I had trusted at that time, spun what he said and lied and said that he was saying all Black people were poor, that all Black people were criminals, and it's not what he said at all.
You're the first in your family to go to university, so whatever challenges your childhood presented, it didn't stop you going to university. How did you find it?
Never felt like a student. I was always like a townie who was doing a degree and a little bit apprehensive about it. None of my friends really had gone to university. They're all trained as plumbers and electricians and that kind of thing. And it was completely not what I expected, a lot more down to earth. And I studied politics, so you can decide whether that was useful or not.
You say you played hard and you worked hard. You did your schoolwork too. You get into Oxford.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. But I just was like a fish out of water, for most of it, to be honest. Although I did make some really good friends there.
Why were you a fish out of water?
State educated, northern girl doing science. And the work is really, really hard. It's completely different. What I realised was everybody else had a lot of coaching, a lot of extra tuition, a lot of support. There was no teaching, really. It's just like, here's an exercise book, get on with it. Crushed my confidence immediately, which, having gone from being this sort of clever, like, oh, you're out of 2,000 kids in this sixth form college in Manchester, we want you to sort of apply for you. I was the only one who got in out of that, to basically being made to feel like I was totally thick, you know, is quite crushing.
Did your parents separate when you were young? Do you know your dad?
They separated when I was 10. My father left